Hi, everyone. Thank you for your continued support and curiosity. I am quite sure you won't be disappointed in this story. This part three is called My Spiritual Awakening for a reason. This part I started a journal and it begins on January 25th, 2016, with being quickly brought to this session in my hometown, thinking I was going to learn about meditation. It was a session that was not only released my spirituality, but in a direction I was not prepared for. It includes my home that is in the clouds, a cherub with a horn to his mouth, making the gesture of an announcement, the woman with the red face, the woman who wears the white robe. A message I'm not sure came from me, but obviously it did. At this point, I'm not even sure why I wrote this and why did I mention God and Jesus and spirits. So many unanswered questions that I now need to explore. For this chapter, I chose the song The Call by Celtic women. And that's because I now have the insight of what was happening, the whole purpose of this journey. Hope you enjoy. January 25th, 2016. I'm pumped spiritually. There is so much taking place in my life that I need to share. It started a couple of weeks ago when I was in a meeting with my coworkers discussing how to reach out in real estate. There was a page distributed with points on it to acknowledge all aspects of our lives. When it came to the personal part on the list, one person described her personal goals, including meditation. I listened with intent as I also agreed that this needed to be done in my personal life as well. Susan, the medium, had suggested this to me in one of our sessions, as the spirits told her that meditation would help me better understand. I put meditation on my list. On my quest to find someone who could teach me about meditation, I automatically thought of Susan. I sent her a text to see if she knew of anyone who could teach me meditation. I had no idea of what it was, how to do it, or what it was all about. I knew the word, but did not understand what it was about. My understanding of this was going into a trance or a different state of mind. I was so interested in this because I came to realize from my experiences there very well might be a state in mind where I can communicate with the spirit. This was highly evident during the connection with Jordan. Susan responded and asked if I could give her some time to find someone. I was grateful and responded with, "Sure, no hurry." Susan came back with the name Lily-W, which was hosting a group session on the 23rd and 24th of January and had room for one more. Not only was this encouraging, but it was in my hometown. I had never heard of Lily, but up until this point, I contacted Lily and and I contacted Lily to ask if she could include me. The course was called Power Up Your Life. I Googled but did not totally understand what I was reading. All I knew was that I was expecting to learn about meditation. January 23rd. I show up at 10:01 for my session of meditation. They were waiting on me. I was excited to learn. The first introduction with Lily was quite nice as she handed me a dish with two items in it and asked me to take one. One was a small pebble, the other was different and attracted me. It looked like a dark brown nut or seed. This is the one I took. Lily said, "I'm not sure what that is or where it came from because I thought all were different stones." I still have this seed as it represents to me that I was to be at this session and given a gift. A seed has been given. When I sat in this little group of 8, I was totally confused. The discussions were puzzling to me. I listened but kept wondering how these discussions would lead to meditation. I knew it was not what I was expecting, but I didn't know the route. It was different, so I went along with what I was being taught. I trusted in those around me that I was in the right place. I was still confused about what I was to learn. It was totally new to me, but I persevered into the unknown and to see if I could bring something into the group. I experienced something very special because I opened my mind. The session started out with an introduction of who and where we were from. Then each of us were asked to discuss something about ourselves. We all were to tell or fear a fear or something that was within us that others might not know, something that was to be shared with all of us. My first reaction was shock. Why was I here? Why I was I to tell of what was happening to me? Was I to bring forward my secret before all of these strangers? What did this have to do with meditation? Where was I being led? These entire questions came running through my head as the session progressed. I listened to each one, but my focus was on what my decision would be when it came time for them to come to me. Where we started left me at the end of the group, the last one. I recognized I had time to decide whether I would proclaim what was happening or whether I would get up and leave the group. I knew I had a choice. I listened to each woman expressing with joy or tears what was on their minds. It was enlightening to hear, and no judgment was made, only helpful offerings. I felt that I was among like people, and although I was trying to organize in my mind how I would introduce what I was going to say, I did say it. My first words were, I don't know how to talk about this, but I see spirits. They come to visit me. I was nervous and hated the focus, but dealt with it. Even listening with intent, and one came to me to give me a hug and to tell me she also sees spirits. Not even the leader, Lily, knew about what was introduced. I never met or heard about Lily before, and we live in the same town. Goes to show you how isolated we can keep ourselves. But I put trust into a group of people, and I will never look back from this day forward. I continued to talk with hesitation about myself and my manuscript, remembering it was not about me, only my story in order to help me focus. We all have a story, but this session I learned later was about discovering who we are. At some point before coming down to the session after Lily and I were at at some point before coming down to the session after lunch, Lily and I were together, and as I looked into her living room, she said, "This is my Trinity table." I had never heard of such a thing. She told me that it was rare and that we have one in our small little town. I was cautious about this table, not knowing anything about it or its use. Later in the afternoon, on the first day, we laid down on the floor as Lily talked us through by closing our eyes and guiding us through the motions of visually seeing with our eyes closed and minds on what she was asking us to see. I still was baffled, but went along with the experience. During the first day, we wrote a letter of meditation. There was a person who who came to my mind when I wrote about, which I wrote about in the manual given to us. It was the male I had written about very earlier in the manuscript, the person who knows of me, the one I described as wearing a monk robe. He was in my thoughts and I let it enter. I had also written about other things in this manual. I went home confused about the first day, as I had thought I was being introduced to meditation, but realized it was a spiritual self-awareness session with meditation. At home later that night, I read the manual from front to back. That night, after falling asleep, I woke to see right in front of my face another face of a woman. We stared into each other's eyes. Her face was red, blood red. I was not frightened, but at that same moment I thought I had seen color before in other spirits, as in its natural state, but I'd never encountered color being presented to me in this way. It was used specifically to tell me something. It was a face, a part of the body which I would not expect to be this color. This was something different, but I did not put two and two together until after I saw her again. The next morning at home, I followed the ritual from the first couple of pages. It was praying to the four directions of the east, south, west, and north. Then I burned a candle at my bedside table to start. I have since continued this each day forward in the morning. I always burn a candle. I don't always burn a candle, but turn on my bedside light. Off I went for the second day. My attitude was more open and inviting than the day before. I was interested in knowing what would come from this day. The second day we started out by continuing talks on the subject of altars, archetypes, and more. To understand that prior to birth, and with the help of angels and guides, we each scripted a life plan. This life plan is what we call the sacred contract. Everything that we face in this life is a manifestation of the spiritual script. We all want to know why we are here. We were also presented with tarot cards, asked to write down 3 questions and pick 3 cards. Each activity was presented individually as we went around the room. We were also asked to write down a question and ask this question to the person holding the card, whom would read the answer. My question was, should I present my book to the public? The card read, gratitude. Later in the afternoon, we talked about other activities following the manual and for the second time did a meditation session. This day of meditation, Lily wanted us to visually see our home and step by step led us through each room of our home, asking detailed questions about it. At the end, we again went around in the group and discussed what we had seen, what type of home, what each of the rooms looked like, the outside of the house, the inside of the house. All were providing details of what they saw. For me, it was short. I stated that, I'm sorry, you have all described your home, but what I saw, I could not get into. I kept trying to get closer, but it would send me back. At one point, I was going to say, Lily, just wait, I think I'm in the wrong home. But I did not want to disrupt the class, so I just watched what I was envisioning and kept trying to get closer. This is what happened. Lily had us all lying on the floor with the lights off and soft music. There were candles burning. At some point, we had a bong or whatever you call it happening. We were all relaxed with our eyes closed. The same start as the day before. She said, I want to take you up the stairs to a door. So I listened and envisioned the stairs and a door. My stairs were totally open on the sides and above the clouds. It was like the whole thing was suspended from nowhere. It probably had about 20 steps, narrow in width. The door was just an everyday door. When we arrived at the door, Lily asked us to look down at our feet and describe what we were wearing on our feet. I looked down, and just as quick as I saw sandals being disappeared to bare feet. Then she asked us to think about our house, a house we would like to live in. Once we opened the door, we would see our house. I tried to envision my house, but I could not be clear as to what I was trying to envision. When I opened the door, I again tried to envision a house, possibly like the one I live in. But what I saw was something else. I saw in the distance a structure sitting in the clouds. It is far away, but I could make it is a square shaped with pillars in the front, something that I would see in Greece or over in this part of the land. It is white and the pillars are white. My view is seeing two sides of it, two sides as if the corner is in front of me. I can see more of the side, and it has no openings. The front I could tell has high pillars that are from the top to the bottom of the structure. I cannot see stairs or what is leading to the front as it is in the clouds. It is bright with light. As Lily is asking us to walk towards our home, I try to get closer. As I try, I can feel the resistance. At one point, it let me get to the front of the clouds, but no further. When I was this close, I could not see the building. It sent me back to my original position. It was at this point I was going to ask Lily if we could start over, but did not want to disturb the rest of the group. So I watched my house from a distance, and every once in a while I would hear Lily say to us, "Now you are in the library," or a different room, but I was puzzled at where I was at. During this time, as I watched my house, a cherub appeared very close to me. It had wings on its back and had a trumpet to its mouth. I watched it as it appeared, disappeared, and then appeared again. When Lily brought us back, I thought that I had done something wrong, and even as everyone described their house, I felt that I had not accomplished what I was to do. I could not visualize in my mind what I would describe as my house. I was presented a picture that was beyond my imagination. It was the rest of the group that was amazed and said, "Heather, you are describing a Greek structure related to Delphi. This is where the Olympians lived. No one can enter this house." How they came to this conclusion was beyond me, as I had no idea of Greek mythology or the likes. But what she did say, I went home and later that night Googled to learn more. Some of the group did say that you could not enter this house. So what house was I seeing and why could I not get close? What was presented to me was to be my home. The thing is, I did not dream this up or even think of this. What appeared was presented to me without my own interpretation or influence. I felt the resistance of not being able to get closer to this house. I felt the push back away from this house. The cherub was also not something I would have considered or thought about. It was presented to me, not something I thought about. It was not until after some time thinking about it more, that I realized the power of the message that was being presented to me. It was being shown that this house, which I could not enter at this time, was my home. Through this whole weekend, I was mostly baffled, confused, and not responsive as to what was going on within the group or within me. The rest of the group, or the majority of them, I assumed, knew more than I, and there to understand further what they did know. Okay, sorry, it's my writing. The rest of the group, or the majority of them, I assume, knew more than I, and probably there to understand further what they did know, all coaching me into a realization of what was happening to me. My eyes were being opened to many things for these 2 days, but predominantly about symbolisms and signs. There was so much of this which I had no experience or knowledge to help me understand the meaning. Before I left the group at the end of the second day, a few of the girls were at the front door with Lily, acknowledging that they would not be going home right away as they did not live close by. I invited them to come over to my house the next day when they mentioned a walk. Please stop in, my door is always open. The next day, after reviewing the activities and reading about Delphi and finding more about the characters, I found Hestia. What I read was like reading the character of myself. I sat at my computer the next day and wrote the following on Monday, January 25th, 2016, and sent it at 11 a.m. to Lily with the heading of My Purpose. Morning, Lily. I want you to know that there was a purpose for me being at your session this past weekend. It is coming together, and this is where I'm at. I have been blessed by being sent to you for my awakening. Although I have not been shown bits and pieces of who I am, I could not relate these or my direction until meeting with you all in this session. I thank each of you for being part of this blessing. I'm Heather, the goddess of the home, hearth, and protector of family. I come from Hestia, or Vesta, one of the same. I carry the fire, in brackets light, which has been passed down to me. I believe what I've written is the light I'm to share with our community. There is a God. The Bible is true, but not all interpretations are correct. There is a spirit. The spirit is why God sent Jesus to earth. We need to understand the spirit. A baptism awakens the spirit. To understand the spirit is to understand yourself as it is your soul. We all have a planned out direction/purpose through our spirit. We need to fulfill the call of our spirit. Our global direction has been based on religion. It needs to be refocused on spirituality. Once we transform our beliefs into spirituality, then the killing and power will dissolve. We will unite in peace. Spirituality needs to be the core of us all. After I sent this note to Lily, my legs became weak, as did my arm. And I wrote my arm because it wasn't both arms, it was one arm. I needed and did gather some candles, my given seat, and tried to relax. Then I went for a walk into the country, thinking. I was so nervous. What compelled me to write these words? It was so easy to write. What right did I have to make this statement and send it? Did I do the right thing? What am I to do now? All these questions I asked myself and more. My walk in the country was to help me relax and think openly. My walk takes me 6 kilometers, but 5.2 if shortened. I was only planning to go to 5.2 kilometers. When I was getting close to the end of the road where I turned back, there were blue jays in the tree to my left that were noticeably very vocal and loud. As I kept walking, on my right was a red-headed woodpecker banging on a telephone pole. It was pecking at a metal plate. This was all happening at once, and a few steps more, and there was another red-headed woodpecker on the left side of the road pecking in a tree. It was crazy loud, and I wondered was this a sign, and what did it mean? I reached the end of the road and again returning came back through the same path with the same birds and noise. Further on my walk, but a kilometer from home, a crow was squawking loudly. What is the meaning of all of this? Lily called later to see if I was going to be home and if the 3 of them could come for a visit. I said sure and prepared for their visit. When they arrived, we talked about the session and about other things from the session. I gave them a tour of my home. My home was completed in 2010, but they thought it was a home that has been here a long time as it blends in with the old. At one point I said, Billy, I have been to your house before, not in body. I recall seeing people around your Trinity table, people of importance. The vision I saw was from high above looking down. It is this deja vu feeling with remembering having been there that makes me aware that I'm on the right path. We said our goodbyes. January 27th. Last night a woman appeared to my left. She was at a distance, but in full view. She was not like a spirit in the room, but the type I consider in a picture. In this view, she was at a distance, but in a full view. I saw all of her. She was in a plain, white, long dress/robe that touched close to the ground with her feet bare, not fitted. Her face was red. Her skin was not white or black as expected, but was red, blood red, very noticeable. Her arms were beside her with the palms facing out towards me. Then I recall a couple of nights before this, the woman that I came face to face with. So close we gazed into each other's eyes. I'm talking about 6 inches away, and her face was red. Was she the same woman? So I've seen this woman with the red face twice in a very short time. What does this mean? I thought. I now know that the spirit can appear as they like, such as my sister Sandy, whom I have learned has grown with me, but presents herself as I last saw her. So I know that this woman presenting herself with a red head has some significance, but I don't know what it is. I did reach out to Lily this day to see if she understood what was being presented. She said red is the first chakra. She may be from my past in family history. I'm on the internet to find out what this could mean. In brackets, I cannot express how defeated I feel about my knowledge and so many matters that have faced me. I feel naive about so much that I'm wondering if this is a big part of the reason for my journey. Is it because I don't understand all that I write about, so the reader can experience my feelings or see through the eyes of one who knows little or nothing? One who questions every little event and happening? I have just seen through a 2-day session where the group has encouraged me on because I did not know or understand or even see the symbolism in what was being presented. This was a spiritual group session. My expression was, "What are you telling me? I don't understand." No wonder my spiritual guides led me to this 2-day session and so quickly. I know so little about religion, about God, about Jesus, about the Spirit, and about life itself. I need to learn more. I need to answer questions. I need to explore my purpose. I need to give the reader my thoughts and what I'm doing to find truth. January 28th. I'm still trying to find the meaning of the red face by searching Google on the internet. January 29th. I'm finding that there is a difference between spiritual and religion when it comes to the color red. I see more information with spiritual. Last night I had a dream. I had included this dream because I now see that there are symbolisms and signs in dreams, and it was another powerful message that was presented worth sharing. I was walking within people marching in chaos going both ways. I recognized Lucia, in brackets, one of the women in our group session, who was looking over a hill by the road and said to me there was something over there. I trusted Lucia and went to explore. I found a hidden sandbank on the water's edge. There were others there. I dropped my ring. It fell off my hand, but as I went to pick it up, It was right beside another ring. The ring found was about the length of a finger. I put it on, but it didn't feel right. When I looked at the ring, it had a message on it. The message referred to a note about a child that was born, and if it was found, it was to be given back. I had the address on it, but I don't remember the address. Then I saw a map, and it directed me to one of the New England states in the US. I believe it was Maine. This is where it was to be returned to. One of my good friends named Donna and I met at the pub for supper and ended up discussing each other's spiritual happenings as we both feel we have a purpose. Somehow we ended up exchanging thumb rings and I ended up wearing her ring home. This was so silly. When Donna called the next morning, she said, laughing, I feel like I was in high school. I feel like I was in high school sharing something with a friend. We both laughed. I felt really weird waking the next morning with her ring. The dream message was quite adamant about making sure that this ring was to be given back. Give it back to the Maine. And in brackets, I had the state Maine owner. I thought about the dream after I woke and said to myself, I've learned recently that we need more that I got to do this over again. I thought about the dream after I woke and said to myself, I've learned recently that we need to be more alert to what is being presented, even in our dreams. Again, I went to Google to see if I could find out about the color red. This is when I realized what was being presented. The woman first appeared very close to me in that I could only see her red face. I understand the face-to-face encounter. I believe I was being told, you are facing danger, but the color red. The second appearance was more of a spiritual calmness. She was all in white, with arms by her side and palms facing me. Pure, holy, spiritually, gentle, but her head was red. I think it means to be on high alert in my head about my spirituality, possibly a red flag. But then I could be wrong, as the meanings I have read are all different. I Googled to read about the Trinity table. I don't know what this table is or its purpose, but curious to know more. Reference, Trinity table, Atlantis. And there's a site here I put here. Reading this about the Trinity table. Finding out about this person utilizing it merely lies upon the table. The subtle movement provides a gentle back-to-back womb experience, allowing a deep state of relaxation to occur very rapidly. During the experience, the lower alpha, theta, and even delta state can be achieved. The theta state is that which is only reached a few moments during sleep, deep sleep, or by a proficient meditator. True delta is normally visually impossible to achieve. Searching more on alpha, delta, theta, delta states of consciousness. Reference, and I have another site in there. On a spiritual level, the Holy Spirit can alter a person's consciousness by divine visions and revelation. And I've got in brackets Ram. 12-2. In the Eastern religions, this is called cosmetic consciousness. Dr. Lee Warren. January 30th. I dreamt about two cards and one that I remember clearly spelled honestly. I was furious in this dream at someone, in brackets not mentioned, because he was not being honest. January 31st. My cat George is very talkative tonight. Talkative in the respect of making cat noises as if talking. It has been quiet in my home today, and at around 7 p.m. I'm doing some thinking sitting at the corner of the living room couch, but I kept getting distracted by my cat. I see him get up and go to the little table beside the two chairs. He is looking around this table, then moves to the other side of the table, looking up and down. He is looking at something, and I'm puzzled as to what it could be. He then comes back and lays down the same way he started. He is making more cat sounds as if talking. He then looks towards me, but not at me. He then gets up and heads quickly towards the couch right beside where I'm sitting. He then swats as if trying to catch something. As I watch, I see this long inch-thick piece of dark cloth, much like the size of a bookmarker, and think maybe he has touched a piece of the pillow that is surrounded with cord. Then when I automatically look to investigate where there is nothing around the couch where it happened. The couch is also a golden color, not a dark brown. Something is playing with my cat, and I just saw what was being used. My cat sees spirits. I've known this from the past because when he looks at something directly, as if someone was there, I would just say, George, who is here? Who are you looking at? I know my other cats acted the same. This is really incredible about this one experience is that what is really incredible about this one experience is that I was shown in color what was being presented. This was also during my full awareness and full alertness during the day. The power of this is really starting to sink in. Next, searching in goddesspower.com, Hestia. Find your goddess archetype, Hestia. Looking for more information on Hestia. And this is where I'll leave it until the next video. Have a great day and see you soon.